Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of building your pen testing machine. So in today's video, I'm going to go through installing Autorecon. Autorecon is an automated tool that basically runs all those initial enumeration and recon scans like Nmap scans, S&B scans, your directory searches, things like that, to just help you get that quick start to your initial recon. Now, what makes these tools awesome, and although they're not a complete substitute for doing this manually, it means that you can run this tool in the background and just set and forget. Leave it running while you go off and start enumerating a website or start looking at any other details you've found along the way. So with that, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is open up Firefox and simply search for Autorecon GitHub. Now, the site that we're looking for, the GitHub repository, is by Tiberius, so Tiberius Autorecon, and go ahead and open that one up. Once we have that open, we can see the instructions on how to install this are very straightforward, and it goes through sort of everything. We're going to go through the recommended install today, but there are a number of different ways to install this package. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're meeting all the requirements. If you've installed Kali recently, you'll have Python 3 installed, but we'll open up our terminal and just make sure that everything's installed. I'm just going to resize my terminal so you guys can see, and so I can make it easier for myself. But basically, we can copy and paste these commands straight from the GitHub page. So the first thing, like I said, we'll copy Python 3 and see if it is installed on our system. We can copy and paste that over. Now when we run this, we can see 0 upgrades, 0 newly installed. So that was already installed. The next thing we're going to install is Python 3 pip. And Python 3 pip allows us to, or pip is used to manage Python packages and modules. So it's basically another way of installing Python specific packages. For this, we're actually going to use pipx, and what pipx does is uses a virtual environment to install these packages. That way it just stops anything from corrupting or interfering with any other modules. So first we need to install Python 3 venv, virtual environment. So we can copy and paste that. Next we'll copy and paste pipx for this user. Once that's installed, we just need to ensure the path. That's basically just adding pipx to the right path, as you can see here. Now you'll notice here we need to either close the terminal, relog in to make sure the path changes have effect. What I'm actually going to use is source and regrab the config file. So we can go source, and then we're looking for zshrc, which is the config file for ZSH, which is the shell we're using. The next section here is the use of sudo for Autorecon. So we'll come back to this and we won't worry about it too much now, but basically we're going to create an alias which allows us to use use sudo with Autorecon. Next thing we need to do is install seclists and our other supporting packages. Seclists is a pretty handy tool. It comes with a list or a range of different lists all in one place, including usernames, passwords, URLs and data patterns, anything for fuzzing payloads, as well as web shells and a number of different Python scripts that allow us to complete a number of different activities. So seclist is the kind of thing that you really want to have installed even if you're not using Autorecon. This install will take a little bit of time, so we'll pause the video here and we'll come back when it's finished. Okay, now that one's finished installing, we can move on to all the other applications that we need to install. Nice handy one-liner here to install all of these. Note most of them will be pre-installed on Kali, but we can just copy and paste that straight in and run it through, and like I said, most of them are already installed, so it's quite quick. Okay, now we just need to install Autorecon, so we're going to utilize pipx and we're going to install straight from the GitHub repository. So we can copy that command in and paste. This will take a minute as well, and once it's installed, all we need to do is go back and ensure that we can use sudo on Autorecon so that all the tools can work correctly. Okay, that's done now. And like I said, we will go back up the top here and find our alias. Now we're using ZSH. If you're using Bash, you'll be looking at Bash RC, but I'm using ZSH. So I'm going to edit, use whatever text editor you want. I'm using Nano, and we're going to edit the ZSH RC file for this user. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and paste in this line. And what it's doing is creating an alias for sudo to allow us to use sudo environment and the path for Autorecon. Once that alias is in place, we then need to save it and reset. So again, I'm going to use source and ZRC, and now I should be able to type sudo autorecon and get a response. Cool. So that looks like it's working now. And just as a bit of an example, I'm going to host a quick, simple HTTP server. We can do that with sudo python 3 tac-m http.server, and we're going to do that on port 80. All this is doing is hosting a web server in the current directory. Now, if we run sudo autorecon and then 127.0.0.1, which is our local host, we should see some interesting results. Now, because we're attacking our own computer, it shouldn't take long. We finished our UDP scan pretty quick, and our quick scan also quite quickly. You can see that the quick scan identified HTTP on port 80, which has in turn asked Autorecon to do a number of other scans. Now obviously there's nothing on here, so the scans aren't reporting anything, but we can see it exists. Alright, now let's go have a look at some of the results. So remember, Autorecon will save our results in the directory we run the command. So in our case, we did it in our Kali home directory, and you can see that the results file is here. We can open up the results folder and you'll get an IP address. Now, if you have an entire network and a number of different IP addresses are scanned at once, they'll all show up here individually. We can then go into that and have a look at our scans. Now, what's cool is Autorecon has these laid out, so for reporting and things, we have them all ready to go. You've got a screenshot of whatever website. So in our case, we were just hosting this so we can see our Kali home directory. We can look at our quick Nmap scan, and you can see this information's all ready to go for a report. And we've got our simple HTTP server on port 80. We can look at our full Nmap scan. Now this will scan all the ports, not just the top 1,000 most common. And that's some extra information. We can look at FUF, which is our directory search. So because there was a port 80 on HTTPS, correction HTTP, it did a directory search. And then the other thing that's really handy about Autorecon is that it shows you a commands log. And we can see here at the top we've got our UDP scan, so top 20 UDP ports. We've then got our quick TCP Nmap scan and then our full TCP Nmap scan. As a result of these scans, so for example, we found port 80 on this particular scan, which means Autorecon automatically does curl scans, FUF scans, WhatWeb, and additional Nmap scans on port 80. But basically, this is where I talk about the fact that we can set and forget with this. We can set it running and it'll just keep turning over scans. We don't have to analyze the results and do our own additional manual scans. It'll just start them for us. We can keep that running in the background and come back to it whenever we need to get some additional information. Okay, we'll close out of that, and for the next video in this series, I'm going to take you through some of the tools that I use in addition to Autorecon for recon enumeration and privilege escalation. So I'm just going to go through a collection of different tools and how I utilize them in a basic sense, and hopefully guys get you guys set up with a bit of a starter kit for your penetration testing machine. So see you then.